Hello, everybody. Good morning. Yeah, with 1 minute late because of tiny go-to-meeting troubles, but we can start now. Welcome also from my side to the APEX Connect 20 online conference, the first APEX Connect conference of, let's say, this sort, right? Due to current times, conferences have to be a bit different, but I can now see we have 270 attendees here. So a lot of interest in APEX topics, and also sort of a proof that we are able to get together and to exchange knowledge also in these times. In the next 45 minutes, I would like to open up the conference for you by providing some news and updates from the APEX development team. I would like to cover how APEX developed in the last 2 years with APEX 18, 19, and 20. While preparing these slides, I realized somehow that we had even 2 releases since last APEX Connect, right? Last APEX Connect was May 2019, and we had APEX 19.1 online at this time. And now we have APEX 19.2 and APEX 20.1. So even for us, it's not enough just to say, okay, let's do a new features presentation for the last release. And so in sessions like this, we have to cover even more than 1 releases, right? So let's first a few words about my person. I'm Carsten Czarski. Most people should know me from previous conferences. I'm working for Oracle since 2001, so this is 19 years now, almost a dinosaur. And I'm just noticing I didn't turn on my webcam. Let me do this right now. And so good morning, also with a picture now. And 5 years or 4 years ago, I was able to join the APEX team, and since then I'm working together with colleagues like Jason Straub, Christian Neumüller, Patrick Wolf, and others on continuously improving the APEX engine. My focus is on all sorts RESTful services, data loading, also a bit of the calendar, and I have to say a lot of other stuff, right? If you want to get in touch with me about any questions, discussing things or whatever, feel free to get in touch with me on Twitter or drop me an email. I might not be able to respond immediately, but I typically respond, right? So I'm talking also a bit about possibly a bit about future directions, and as always, you might have seen the slides on Oracle presentations before. Whenever I talk about unreleased software, future developments, it's all the current state of our thinking, right? It might turn out differently. And as I like to say always, if you download the final product and the promised things are not there, it was just a bad dream, right? This guy on stage was just fantasizing and seems to be very creative. Or seriously spoken, don't make any purchasing decisions based on what you hear here. Okay, first things first, I already mentioned it, APEX 21 is here. Last week, or even 10 days before, at April 23rd, APEX 21 was released for download. So it has been applied to the hosted instance, apex.oracle.com, sometime before. That's what we always did for every release. So when a new APEX release comes out, we first install it on the hosted instance, apex.oracle.com. People can try out things and provide us feedback. We will round up issues and fix bugs, and a short while after that, we are providing the actual downloadable release. And that happened 10 days ago. So now APEX 21 is completely out, and you can download and kick the tires yourself. right? I will cover a bit of the APEX 21 contents later in this presentation. First, I would like to show you a few APEX usage examples. How is APEX used? And there is so many APEX usage around the globe and also in Germany, right? It's impossible to cover everything. So I just picked out a few, from my point of view, interesting points, which are rather new. A few of them are older, but they have an interesting twist in it. And I would like to talk a bit about those, right? And there was several usage examples for APEX. And what am I talking to you, right? You guys are using APEX every day, and you know about APEX and how it's being used. But still, the first thing, and I have shown this in the past already, I will do it anyway, right? Because it's really a very interesting APEX application because of a few reasons, right? And that's the internal Oracle Employee Directory. That's the Area People application. And that's whenever, within Oracle, whenever we are about to look up a colleague, we use that application. And that's an APEX application with millions of page views per day. And with a very narrow use case, of course, but two things are interesting here. One thing, and this is what you can see on the screenshot already, you don't really see that this is an APEX application, right? It is universal theme indeed, right? But you don't see the typical right menu bar or the header line. It does not look at all like an application, how it comes out of the builder after creating an app, right? It really looks different. So this is really, you can style APEX applications completely differently. And when you look at this application without looking at the URL, you won't even notice that this is an APEX application. And the other interesting thing here is, and this is a live screenshot, the only thing I did, I redacted the personal details out. And this, as you can see, this was the actual search which I performed to find my name, which is the fourth match here. And so obviously this application provides some fuzzy or similarity search capabilities. And the interesting thing here is that this doesn't use some sort of third-party fuzzy search stuff or whatever. It's all using database functionality, right? This application, even the fuzzy search, is implemented with only database functionality. So the technical detail is it uses Oracle Text, and if time allows, I will talk a bit about APEX and Oracle Text in this presentation as well. So the interesting fact is this application, as you can see it, right, with the screenshot, which looks like a modern web application. It's all database, it's all APEX, no third-party software involved. You can do such an application with your APEX installation today. You don't need to buy anything on top. It's all available for you today, right? Another one is not a single application. That's how we are using APEX internally at Oracle. And you all know the public evaluation instance, apex.oracle.com, where you can sign up for Workspace, as I mentioned before, which has been upgraded to APEX 20.1 a bit in advance. And you can kick the tires on APEX there and try things out. The same instance exists within Oracle, right? And you can't reach that instance from the internet. It's only available from within the Oracle network. And this is, so to say, the production instance, right? Every line of business within Oracle can sign up for a workspace without formal approval processes, without any cost center cross-charging mechanism. You're an Oracle employee, you sign on, create a workspace, and as you know how it works on apex.oracle.com, it works the same way on this internal applications. The difference is this instance runs production applications, right? So lines of business at Oracle really run their applications on this single APEX instance. And I looked it up yesterday. We have about 5.6K workspaces and about 31,000 or close to 32,000 applications. So I'm pretty sure lots of these 32,000 applications are, again, test, evaluation and playing things. But let's say just 10% are real production applications. then we would still say this instance, the single instance for Oracle runs 3,000 production applications. Show me a database instance without APEX, which is capable to serve more than 3,000 different business purposes, right? That's really our proof point, or this really shows how you can scale up with APEX and how a single APEX instance properly set up can really provide value to large organizations or to the whole organization. It doesn't have to be the server for each individual application, right? And here is what happens on this instance. So I looked up the daily page views for the last week, and of course at the weekend it's a bit less. So at a Sunday it was just 280,000 page views, and during the week it's as you can see here, it's between 1.4 and let's say 2 million. At April the 30th, it was over 2.1 million. So all in all, 9 million page views in a week in a single APEX instance, which is not too bad, right? And this is not possible because of the cool hardware. It runs on cool hardware. Make no mistake here, this runs on an Exadata box. However, even an Exadata box serving 30,000 applications requires some sort of architecture, and that architecture is provided by APEX. The stateless architecture we are all using with APEX for years makes things like that possible. And again, even without an Exadata, you can have this sort of instance on your in your company as well, right? You need to think a bit about how to set up such an instance. You need some sort of resource management, but it's possible to do this, right? Okay, and this is rather recent, and I would like to at least point you to this. We are in exceptional times, and when the pandemic started to hit the world and the US, Oracle started to build the COVID-19 therapeutic learning application. And in the meantime, there is a ZDNet article which describes a bit the backstory about this. The URL to this article is below, but you can also Google it. Just Google ZDNet, APEX, and COVID, and you will find it. And Tony Baer describes a bit how this application was built. And it's indeed as the article describes, right? Mid-March, there was within Oracle, we had the request to build that application. A team was put together. There was data modeling using Lifecycle. Within 2 days, the data model was designed. Then APEX development started. The very first rough version was provided after 4 or 5 days. And by the end of March, we had the general availability of that application. Of course, it's been improved since then. There was further development, but within 2 weeks from request to production, APEX allowed Oracle to stand up this application. But make no mistake, that's not only APEX. APEX is the UI. So what people can see on this application is provided by APEX. But of course, there is a lot of other Oracle technology involved with this, right? It's a lot of authentication, it's Oracle Cloud Services, and this was really a huge team effort. And there were several people at Oracle, not only APEX people, were involved in this. And so this is really an achievement of Oracle as a whole. But it shows nicely how we can use APEX to stand up the UI of an application really quickly. But that's not only true for Oracle, right? I've watched, as we all did, I watched Twitter over the last weeks, and on Twitter I have seen that it was not just Oracle who achieved that. I saw several tweets of people achieving exactly the same, right? Standing up applications rather quickly, really leveraging the productivity we can have with APEX, right? And I think that very nicely, that shows us very nicely that we are all on the right technology, right? Obviously, it was the right decision to focus on APEX and to build up skills in APEX. Yeah, and this were just 3 usage examples, and there are, as I said in the beginning, there are several more. Right. So have a look at APEX Oracle.com success stories if you want to know how other people use APEX. There was also a link to the Gartner Peer Insights, where people provided quotes about APEX, how APEX helps them. And the interesting thing here is that Gartner does not just collect quotes and publishes them. These quotes are really validated. So if I understood correctly, Gartner dropped half of the submitted quotes as not, let's say, acceptable. And what you see online is the remaining stuff, right? Okay, let's now get a bit into the details, right? What happened to APEX, or how did APEX develop in the last year? Or let me extend that time frame a bit, and let me start, or let me also cover a bit APEX 2018. And when we think about APEX releases, all of us, or almost everybody, knows that APEX now releases twice a year. Right before 2018, there was this time frame of APEX releasing roughly every 12 to 18 months. So 5.0 and 5.1 was more close to 18 months. Before that, we managed to release maybe every 12 months, but it was roughly every 12 to 18 months. And in between these 12 to 18 months, there were patch sets, right? So we had APEX 5.0, which came out in summer 2015, and then APEX 5.1, which came out in December 2016, roughly 18 months. And in between that, we had APEX 5.01, APEX 5.02, and so on, right? And then APEX 18 came out in I think, if I remember right, it was April 2018. That was 16 months, right? And again, we had APEX 5.11, 5.12, 5.13, and so on. And since 2018, this release model changed a bit. And so, as all the other products, all the other Oracle products, now the release year indicates the major version. So APEX 18 tells us this was released in 2018. And APEX releases twice a year, or the plan is to release twice a year. So far, we managed to deliver. So APEX 18.1 was released in May 2018, 18.2 in September 2018. Last year, as I mentioned in the beginning, APEX 19.1 was released April 2019. In November, 19.2 hit the light of day. And since a few days, we have APEX 21 available. So we plan to deliver APEX 22 this calendar year. And as you know, we never give product exact release dates out. But when you look at this, go figure, right? When to expect APEX 22. We won't be able to tell you exactly, but you can get a rough, an educated guess. Let me put it that way. An interesting thing for me to address is that there is no major or minor version, right? And this is really important. So we all used to, if we have experience with the Oracle database, so think about early database releases. So think back in time a bit, right? Times of Oracle 11.1, 11.2, 10.1, 10.2, right? And there is this, we all learned the .1 release is the, let's say, initial release. The .2 release is the terminal release. And indeed, it was so that the support time frame for that .2 release was significantly longer than for the .1 release, right? And also, feature-wise, the .1 release was supposed to introduce all the new features. The .2 release was more supposed to round features out. That is not, I repeat, that is not the way how it works with APEX, right? If I look at APEX 19, for instance, APEX 19.2, as we will see in a few minutes, has a bunch of new features, right? Way more new features than, let's say, for instance, 20.1. APEX 18.1 also had a bunch of new features. 19.1, I think not as much as 19.2, but also quite a few new features. And so what we can learn from those 5 releases alone is that there is no major or minor version for APEX release. It's not, APEX 19.1 is not the minor, and APEX 19.2 is not the major, and it's also not the other way around. It's just an APEX release, right? And you from the .1 or .2, you cannot tell about the number of new features or the number of bug fixes which is contained in the release. To see that, look up the release notes, stay connected to the community and to the news from development, and then you will learn what changed in those releases. But just from the release number, you cannot tell everything. The next thing is that even in the months between a release, there might be critical issues, right? And there have been in the past. And of course, not every critical issue can wait until the next release. And so we have bundle PSEs, that's how we call it, to address those critical issues between two APEX releases. So on the APEX download page, the bundle PSEs are listed for 20.1. There is no download available yet. Once we have the first issues and we have the first patches, we will make a bundle PSE for 21 available as well, right? Okay, what's new in 2019, right? And when I remember last year's APEX Connect, we had indeed, I remember there was a session, I did a session about the data loading, and there were sessions about REST support for forms. And so in 19.1, one of the new features was to increase the REST support, which was started in 18, to read-write APEX component for the form pages. Data loading was revamped. We introduced dark mode for the application builder. The pop-up region template was introduced. And of course, this is just a few major new features. There were a lot of other new features. 19.2 in November. We demoed it several times since then. Faceted search is the big marquee new feature in APEX 19.2. We'll talk about this today as well. 19.2 also brought really significant changes and improvements to list of values. Anthony Rayner did a lot of work to not only provide a modern and state-of-the-art pop-up LOV. The new pop-up LOV is for sure one of the most interesting components, and I think the new pop-up LOV alone is worth the upgrade to 19.2, right? Because that's also that was also sort of the feedback we received from you guys over and over again. APEX team, please improve the pop-up LOV. It's outdated, it's stale, right? And it was true. And with 19.2, we finally delivered the new pop-up LOV. Actually, as some insight from development, this was originally even planned for 19.1, but during development, we had to learn that LOVs are everywhere in APEX, right? It's not just the LOV item. It's LOV report columns. It's LOV interactive grid columns. It's the APEX item thing, right? And it was not just the pop-up LOV, it was also the modernization of the LOV infrastructure, the REST enablement of LOV, and this feature really covered a lot of places in APEX. So it took its time to implement and deliver it, and finally with 19.2 it saw the light of day, right? Also in 19.2, the team development area in Application Builder was completely redeveloped, right? Again, based on your feedback, but also based on our own experience, we realized that the team development area was way too complex. Right? It required quite some sort of effort to just set the basic things up, to create milestones, features, to-dos, so this area was completely redeveloped in a much more simple way. So the role model was the GitHub issues area, and so everything is an issue, and you can have different kinds of issues. It's not there to replace a professional ticket management system. It's there as many other features for those teams, for small teams who don't have access to a professional ticketing system and who just need something small, right? So I would like to see really both, and since we are now 2019 is over, we have both releases available, and I would really like to see the complete slide. So both the features in 19.1 and both the features in 19.2 as how the Apex developed in 2019. And when I look at this, it's quite a development. So Apex became quite, or Apex got quite some new capabilities and features. And in Apex, so this is about the form region. I talked about this already. Faceted search is something which I would spend another few words on. This is really something which, again, I think highlights how productive we can be if we have a proper metadata. So as you all know, Apex is based on metadata. All parts of your Apex applications are stored in tables, and when you're working with your application builder, you change your application, then you're effectively changing metadata in the Apex tables. And when you run your application, the Apex engine reads that metadata and produces the web pages. Right? And every component of Apex, whether it's a report, a form, a chart, this is all metadata, right? And the engine renders the pages, right? And the idea was, and that was Mike Hitchell's idea, that we need even better search capabilities in Apex. So Interactive Report already provided powerful search capabilities. However, it's for end users, these capabilities are not that easy to access, right? You have to click actions, then you have to create a filter, you have to create a sort, which is sometimes hard for end users to grasp and to fully leverage. And when you look at the internet, when looking at the internet, there is faceted search everywhere. And even if you don't know what faceted search means, you all used faceted search before, right? Whenever you looked at Amazon, whenever you looked at ImmoScout or another marketplace or shopping website, they all use faceted search. And it's always the same setup, right? You have the results on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side you have filters or facets. And when is a filter a facet? We talk about faceted search or facets when the filters on the left-hand side are connected to each other, right? So when I change the genre facet here, then this will have an effect on the country facet, right? The counts which are in parentheses will adjust, right? If let's say if I pick thriller and there is no thriller from Canada, then Canada would disappear, and so on, right? So everything interacts with each other. And if you have that search pattern, right, where everything interacts with each other, then we talk about faceted search. And fun fact, during development, this feature was referred as filter reports for quite some time, because faceted search was not known to us as a team as well. I heard about it before, but I didn't really think about it, that it's exactly this feature. Rather, to the end of the cycle, we realized that this is actually faceted search, and that we should name it how it is, right? And actually call it. So faceted search is it's a very common model. So every end user immediately, intuitively knows how to use it. And the value of Apex is that, again, we store that as metadata, right? We have the information that this is faceted search, that this filter is a facet, that this filter is connected to the genre column, that this facet is connected to the country column. This is all stored as metadata. And all the low-level plumbing code of refreshing the results, recalculating the counts, refreshing the depending facets, that's all done by the engine, right? So it's without a framework like Apex, which provides that out of the box, it's doable, right? You can do pages like this, but it's great effort, right? You have to invest quite a lot of work, add dynamic actions, add custom JavaScript code, add custom SQL queries to calculate the counts. Apex with the faceted search feature just exposes that as a component. You provide the data source, provide the facets, and there you go, right? So this is really a sign how productive you can be with Apex. And not only for simple components like a chart on data, even for complex components like faceted search, Apex can provide this productivity you are used to. The pop-up LOV enhancements are already talked about this. Oh, that's actually, no, here is the pop-up LOV on the right-hand side. So this is an example for pop-up LOV within interactive grid. And as I already mentioned, it's now a modern component, which in this example aligns nicely with the rest of interactive grid, but also for form pages. It's just the pop-up LOV is state of the art. And if we did our job right, most of you don't need third-party plugins for those purposes anymore. What happened in 2020 so far? So 21 also quite some new features, but compared to 19.2, and again, this indicates that you cannot derive anything from the release number. It's not that much of new features and not such marquee new features like we had in 92. So what do we have? We have friendly URLs, application backups, remote deployment, and mega menus. I will talk about those in the next slides as well. And the most important ones are for sure friendly URLs. Application backups are really interesting for smaller teams as well. Mega menus are very nice layouting components. Session timeout warnings is something which you guys have requested for years as well. We started to add native PDF printing, so PDF printing without a dependency to external engines like ORDS, BI Publisher, or whatever. And also a tiny improvement to SQL Workshop for soda collections in the Oracle database. Okay, let's first talk about the friendly URLs. And after 20 years, or after almost 20 years, Apex changes parts of its signature, right? Or you can change part of the signature of an Apex app, and that is the characteristic URL. So all the years we knew, right? If the URL is F*P, that's Apex. And you can now change that to by enabling friendly URLs, and then you will get a URL scheme which is typical for web applications. And the value of this, those Apex applications will work better together with web servers, or even if you have an Apex app facing the internet, this is a great improvement because this is much more search engine friendly than the previous F*P URLs. Both ways will work, so you can still run applications without friendly URLs enabled. So if you create a new application in 21, the feature will be enabled. You can disable it if you wish. And existing applications will keep the old URL scheme, and then you can explicitly enable friendly URLs. And the schema is always the Apex schema, of course. Then you have the workspace path prefix. Then you have the application alias and the page alias. Right? The parameters like the session ID or page items are added like parameters to a web application. So it really looks like a plain web applications URL. Right? You cannot tell that this is Apex. Mega menus is a new way of designing a menu in Apex. So far we had this this hierarchical menu on the left-hand side or on the top level, and the mega menu will allow you to have more complex menu structures, right? So you open this and you can see the full thing expands, and this is implemented as a new list template. Right, so you need to have a list where all this stuff is configured, and then the mega menu will render this nicely as this rich menu structure, which allows to convey a lot of information and a lot of navigation with just one menu. Right. Automatic backups, that's also a very useful feature, especially for smaller teams. So you're able to, in Application Builder, you are able to manage application backups. So you can hit a button. So there is this Manage Backups area in the Application Builder page. And then you, with a button click, you can take a backup. And the backup will be an application export, which is stored as a blob within Apex, right? Everything is transparent. and then you can change your application. And if you're saying to yourself, oh, that was wrong, I need to have the old stuff back, you go to the backups area again and restore your previous backup, right? And this will avoid having to go to application export and export as of 10 minutes ago. So for the Apex experts out there, this is one of the tips you can now remove from your slide sets, right? The export as of feature becomes a bit less the silver bullet tip for to recover lost changes. There is now a much more intuitive and more easy way to get a previous version of the Apex application back. On the instance level, you can configure how many backups are retained by default. And there is a job which runs daily and which takes backups of all applications which have been changed, right? Of course, if you don't want this, you can disable the job. But why? I would always have that feature enabled. It brings immediate value to your development teams. And time is running out. I have to speed up. Session timeout alerts is something which has also been requested for quite a while, and this addresses the fact that you have the Apex session open for a long time, and then you get back to your screen, do changes in a complex form, hit save, and then you get the message your session has expired. Too bad, reload the page and do all the changes again. And what we now have is you're able to configure a warning. So if in this case, 3 minutes before the session ends, you will see a warning pop up, which allows to extend the Apex session and which will help end users not to lose any work. Right? Okay, so I think let me pick the. Let me show this feature. Apex is all about productive development, so why not? So I would like to show you a minor new feature in Apex 20.1 or Apex 19.2, to be honest. And this is about Oracle text support, right? And Oracle text is the component which allows you to have stuff like similarity search as part of your normal Apex application. And we always had Oracle text support as part of interactive grid. And that is since Apex 5.1. And since Apex 5.1, you have the sample interactive grid application. There is the Oracle text area. And once everything is set up correctly, you can have similarity search. So I'm looking for Gustav Eiffel, and I don't know that it's spelled with 2 F. And still, it finds Gustav Eiffel, and you see there is some sort of similarity search. Up to 19.1, this was only available for interactive grid. So this nice way of using Oracle text in an Apex component without having to do anything was only available for interactive grid. And this is what changed with Apex 19.2. So let me quickly pull up a new Apex application. And let me add an interactive report to that application. All right, so this is not interactive grid anymore. Let me remove and then I'm having either demo IG people, right? And this is one of the minor new features, right? It's often lost in presentations, but I wanted you to see exactly this because I think it has so much value for end users, right? So this is our interactive report. And of course, if I'm searching for Eiffel here, I don't find anything, no Oracle text. However, starting with 19.2, we have in the advanced section of your interactive report, we have a new property, Oracle text index color, right? And we can pick the Oracle text index here. Start the page again, and still it doesn't find anything because right now I have to use Oracle text syntax, right? So prefix with a question mark. And oh, that's the first effect, right? I have similarity search in my interactive grid application, in my interactive report now, but still I have to prepend that question mark, which is not what we want, right? End users don't want to learn Oracle text syntax. However, there is something we can do, right? In application attributes, we can configure an Oracle text function. This is here. So, and there is a help text. And this function is a pure SQL function, which is provided by you. And this pure SQL function converts end user input to the very technical Oracle text syntax. So the end user gets the Google experience, type in anything, and Interactive Report will find it. All right. So, and I even have it in the history. So with the sample interactive grid application, such a function has been installed. So let me apply that. Run my page again. Remove that. And now I have in Interactive Report, I have the same experience as I had before in Interactive Grid. So Oracle Text is available for 2 components now. So now let me tell you, I won't show this because of the time. This Oracle Text support has also been set up. Let me just show you in the wizard. So if you create a new LOV, and this is also part of the new LOV infrastructure, which I talked about before. So, and also in the interactive, in the LOV area, we have the Oracle Text Index column. And if you then have a pop-up LOV on top of your table or SQL query, and you're using the search functionality, again, you have fuzzy search. You have that Oracle Text column as part of faceted search. So you can have the similarity search within faceted search as well. So with 19.2, we hooked up Oracle Text support for 3 more APEX components. And this really allows you to use features like similarity search much more intuitively as it has been before. Really something to try out, and you will be surprised how much value similarity search adds for your end users. Once you implemented it, you will never be able to take it away because your end users will hunt you if that feature is not available anymore. Okay, a few direction examples, right? I just picked 2 because I wanted to give you some sort of insight how APEX features hook into a longer term story, right? And again, safe harbor, because I'm now talking a bit about the future. So if it comes later or not at all, it was just a dream, right? So I told you that in APEX 21, we added a native PDF export for interactive grid. So in 21, once you export PDF for your interactive grid, it will not be Alt or BI Publisher which produces your PDF, it will be APEX itself, right? And it's not just that we added PDF for interactive grid and done. There is a direction and a thought behind this. And I would like to talk about this right now. So the thought is, of course, that we want to extend this in the future. So data export is something where we plan to have way more comprehensive support. So we plan to provide additional downloads formats. So XLSX is on our list, right? We plan to provide this for all the components. So native PDF and XLSX not only for interactive grid, but also for reports and classic reports, right? And potentially in the future also an API, right? So there is a thought behind this, and you will most likely see more in that area in future releases, right? And the REST part, there is also a roadmap behind all these things. And here I can touch a bit on history, what happened before in APEX, right? So when you have seen APEX sessions at previous APEX Connect conferences, in APEX 18, we started to add support for external REST services to APEX with the goal of using external sources as tables. So APEX 18.1, there was the introduction, right? Read-only components like reports, charts, calendar. In 19.1, read-only write support was introduced. The form region in 19.2, list of values support now external data sources, the interactive grid. In 21, we have no changes for REST support, but in a future release, you will see more, right? We are currently working on providing the ability to implement connector plugins. So if you have a weird REST service with an exotic pagination scheme and the super exotic filtering syntax, you we plan to enable you to write a plugin, which is able to talk to your exotic RESTful API, and then an end user filter and interactive report will be translated to the exotic syntax of the REST API, right? We are working on data synchronization. So you want to synchronize a REST service to a local table. You don't need to code anything. You just configure it and APEX does the rest, right? You see, there is a roadmap for REST services and stuff like that. And the story is also, it's not completely told. You will see more features in that area in future releases. And the same is true for application lifecycle management. You have seen application backups and remote deployment in 21. This is brand new, but we are working on other features in that area. So like the agile way, there are epics which describe very basic stories over long term, how to improve APEX in specific areas. And you now have seen 2 of these epics, right? And or I've briefly touched a 3rd one. And so all our features are part of a longer term story, right? Let me close the keynote with a few words on the APEX community. We can do that very quickly. I would like to point you on, so we are watching the APEX Connect online conferences. 2 weeks ago, there was the APEX at Home conference, the 24-hour marathon around the globe with speakers from the whole world and attendees from the whole world. All these sessions have been recorded. You can watch them again, apexathome.me. If you not already did, become a member at apex.world to get in touch with news about APEX. And you can participate in the Slack channel, get in touch with other APEX developers. This site has a huge amount of gems interesting to APEX developers, jobs, plugins, other developers discussion, really a treasure. Have a look into it. It's a warm recommendation to join the site. And finally, stay connected on Twitter. Follow, you can't follow a hashtag, of course, but you can search for a hashtag and stay connected to the APEX developers and to the news about APEX. And that's pretty much all I have. I slightly extended by 3 minutes. I hope that's okay. And I'm now open to take any questions you have. So what are your questions?
Hi, Carsten. Thanks first for your presentation. We got a few questions. I will read them for you so you can answer them. First question, is it possible to run APEX 21 on database 19C without a loss of functionality?
On 19C, I see no reason why not, right? So APEX 21 on database 19 is part of our test suite. So if something doesn't run there, this should be a bug, right? There is, so when I hear database 19, this is not connected to APEX, of course, right? But database 19, the database as such has removed functionality, and that is the Oracle Multimedia component, which has been removed in 19. So even with APEX installed, this won't run anymore, but this has nothing to do with APEX. This is a part of the database. But when I look at APEX as such, I see no reason why things shouldn't work in APEX 19, and why APEX functionality shouldn't work in database 19.
Okay, the next question, which I also find quite interesting, is there a plan to make critical patches available to users who don't have active Oracle support subscription?
Right now, I'm not aware of such a plan. So yes, I understand this, that if you don't have an Oracle support subscription, you can download APEX from OTN, but you don't have access to the bundle PSEs. I think it's a bit of an improvement. So what you get in the meantime, since 2018, you get APEX releases way quicker than it was in the past. So in the past, you got 1 new APEX releases every 18 months or every 12 to 18 months. Now you are able to get an APEX release every 6 months, roughly, right? And so that is, I think, already an improvement. But besides that, I'm not aware of any plans to make those patches available.
Okay. The next question. I have a question. As freelancer, I always ask myself how I can automate testing of client applications in regards to my experience with Oracle ADF. I assume Oracle have testing tools. So can you tell what kind of tools I can use for testing Apex applications? Thanks.
So this is a long topic, and if I remember, I would need to check again, but there might be a session at the door at the. So I remember there was a session about that at the Apex at Home Marathon. So I would recommend to have a look at that. So what I can tell you, what Oracle does. So of course we do testing as well, and we do also UI testing of the application builder. In Oracle, of course, that's part of so Oracle has a large QA team, of course, who are testing not only Apex but also all sorts of other Oracle products, and we are in the lucky position to be able to leverage that existing infrastructure. And those people are working, for instance, with Selenium, right? So these people are offering test scripts, and they are doing Selenium tests to test the Apex UI. I'm aware that there is that testing framework of Simon Hunt, for which I can't remember of Explorer UK in the UK, right? I don't remember the name of the testing framework right now, but he has worked out a way to integrate Apex with testing tools to ease UI testing. And when I look at my talks to customers like the MTLG or others or InSum, all these people have experience in that and have set up approaches how to integrate testing tools with Apex. So as a short answer after a keynote, I would like to leave it with that, and I would like you to have a look at the agenda of the Apex Connect online again. I don't remember right now if there was a session about testing, but I'm pretty sure there was one in the Apex at Home Marathon. So, and these people were talking about this for 45 minutes. So you might have a look there, and I'm pretty sure you will get some interesting thoughts out of these sessions.
I will focus on questions regarding your presentation. One question was last 25 backups per app. I guess it's about the automatic backup feature. So this was the question, last 25 backups per app.
This was the question. So actually, that's the default. So that's not a question, that's the default, right? So what does that mean? So actually, there is an instance parameter which will allow you to configure how many backups Apex should keep. And Apex only takes a new backup if the application is actually changed. Right, so if there is no change in the application, Apex will keep 2 backups. So even if you had the manual button, take backup, and the application didn't change, Apex will tell you, ooh, nothing changed, right? Why taking a backup? And so it will even also the nightly job, it will also take a new backup if there was an actual change. And so, but still, if you would take backups forever, you might run into space storage issues at some point in time. So we have an upper limit. The default is 25. So after 25 backups, the oldest backup will be removed, and the new one will be stored, right? And there is an instance parameter which allows you to configure that number. So if you have enough storage, right, and you would say, I want to keep everything, bump it up to 2000, and you will store tons of backups. Or if you have storage constraints and you don't want to keep all that stuff, remove it to, let's say, 1, 2, or 5, and you will have less backups. Or if you don't like that feature at all, but actually I see no reason why not to like that feature. But if you don't like it, turn it off, right? Then Apex won't keep anything. I hope this answers the question.
Yeah, I think it does. Another question. We are running, it's getting late. So I guess this will be the last one. Will the Oracle text search work with column header filters in interactive grids and interactive reports?
No, it won't work with column header filters because so first of all, for the technical, if you want to have a technical discussion about this, feel free to contact me, as I said, on Twitter, by email, And I'm happy to provide the accurate technical explanation for this. As very briefly, Oracle text works best if there is only one Oracle text index per table. Having a text index for each of the columns, right, works functionally, but will result in poor performance. And that's the reason why Oracle text in APEX is hooked up to the row search and not to the column search. So you, per component, per interactive report, interactive grid, you will configure one Oracle text column, and that Oracle text column indexes the whole row. So, and here I have to stop, right? Because explaining how Oracle text index on one column can index the whole row would take way too much time. But I'm happy to discuss this offline on the internet. And there was even, have a look at apex.oracle.com/office hours. And last year, there was a session on APEX and Oracle text. And this explains a bit how the Oracle text index has been built, how it comes that an Oracle text index on a column indexes the whole row. And once you've seen those bits, it's easy to make the connection on why it's hooked up to row search in interactive reports or interactive grids.
Okay, thanks, Carsten. We are getting close to the next presentation. So thanks for your presentation, for your keynote, and for every follower.